Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this, my second channel, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the Flat Earth Debate pre-show and after-show goodness. Now, we are actually joined by Anthony Riley. If you want to support this show, be sure to smash the super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. How are you doing, Anthony? It's very good to have you.
Yo, yo.
Hello, hello. Don't normally get privy to the intro.
So is this going to happen? Are you going to have to lead in 15 minutes, or are we just going to carry on?
No, I'll still do. I'll just start it like. That's why I don't normally let the people in the hangout be privy to the intro, because it generates questions like that.
Oh,
whereas if I just say,
right.
"Hey, how you doing?"
I'm not sure how you're going to do it, but anyway, I've just got my car fixed.
Oh, okay.
Fucking Range Rover suspension on it. Just over time, it stopped working, and I didn't know it stopped working. So it's over time, it's gradually been losing ride height and losing it and losing it. Then I noticed it, and I was like, "What the fuck's wrong with that?" Then we went away for a couple of days, came back, fucking on its ass. So then I worked out what was wrong with it, bought the new compressor unit, plugged it in before, whilst I was like, obviously I've been away for a couple of days, come back, stripped it all down, put the new compressor in, charged it, and basically it started. I was like, happy days. But it ran for about 15 seconds and then just said, nah, it's suspension fault. And I was like, what? So I rang my mate and he said, how long's it been empty for? I said, about a week, 2 weeks maybe. And he said, it's got no air in the tanks. You're going to have to manually override it and force it to fill up. He said, it's what it's doing is it's saying there's no air in this. There's something wrong with it. You've got no air in it. There's a leak. So it's turning it off so that it doesn't overheat the pump. He said, you have to override that and gamble that you're not going to overheat your pump. So I did that, and then it's now working. Turned around after speaking to him. The car's fucking up in the air and it's on stilts. I'm like, shit, it's about to blow. So it's just a case of getting things sorted, but it's all sorted now. It's a pain in the ass. Cars, man.
What the hell's wrong with this mic?
Again?
Did you just? I know you didn't. I saw the level not bouncing up and down, and then realised that you didn't know anything I'd said.
I hadn't heard anything you said, no.
I've just been fiddling with the mic. That's all. Just been changing settings, and it doesn't do something that I thought it would do. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. My brother's just bought a Land Rover. I'm sure I've mentioned that to you.
Yeah.
V8 Vogue Range Rover white. Not that you care about the colour.
I want to rant and rave about conspiracy cats, but I don't know whether we should do it live or whether I should do it now. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just summarize it now. He's a cook. He is literally ignorant. He does not understand that if you have two equally valid interpretations, but one requires convoluted explanations that he's got no evidence for, and the other one is self-evident, the one that's most likely is the one that requires the least amount of convolution, and he won't accept it. And I'm like, you're either brainwashed or you're deliberately here to deceive one or the other. And he's not able to even acknowledge the alternative.
Time when you must have had this feeling. I mean, I can empathise and sort of put myself in the position of somebody, because I've heard it described 100 times. But that when you can't quite believe it, you know what I mean? No, surely not. Surely they haven't been lying to us this whole time. Surely the world that they present us with isn't a deception. Well, some people get to that and it's a brick wall. They just cannot comprehend it. They're, as you put it first off, so brainwashed that it can't process.
I said to him, listen, you are literally at the point where the penny should be dropping. And rather than realizing that your explanation, your convoluted bullshit explanation story that has no evidence to support it, but relies on logic and reason only, and it's a lovely story, but has no evidence to prove that it's true, is a problem. It was to do with the stars. You know, Polaris. He claims that it moves at 69 degrees for every 69. For every 69 miles you travel, it moves by 1 degree. He won't accept that all the stars appear to slow down at the horizon. The explanation, without any evidence whatsoever, on a flat plane, that's exactly what it would do because you're getting further away from it. But he can't accept that. He says that's down to refraction. And I'm like, right, okay.
But you missed a point.
You can't prove it.
You missed a point. You missed a point. I noticed this in your conversation with John on Skype, so you probably noticed I wasn't part of the conversation, but I read it afterwards. And if you are going to assert that that's correlated with the land, then that measurement gives you a slope.
Well, somebody showed me that if you mark that out, it does give you a linear line on a curve.
A line. Right. It doesn't give you a curve. It gives you a line. You're saying a linear line on a curve. You're getting confused. No, it gives you a slope. If you're to assert that that's a correlation, if it's correlated with the land, then it's a slope.
Yeah, but if it's on a flat plane, what happens is the further away you get from it, it starts to have very little effect, but gradually gets more of an effect.
I get you, and I understand that. If you are to assert that it's correlated with the land, then that correlation gives you a slope. Now, I know you're immediately reverting to, well, the flat Earth explanation is, or because we're on a plane, this must be the inference. And I agree, but I'm saying if you are to assert that the two are correlated, then the correlation gives you a slope.
I think you might not necessarily be right there. I'm not 100% sure. And I'm not saying that I'm right or you're wrong. I'm just saying that I believe someone on our side told me that it does give you a straight linear relationship on a curve.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't
a linear relationship. Right. Linear.
Well, anyway, my point is that if we're on a plane, what happens is it starts to move microscopically initially as you're starting to get further away from it, and it will gradually get more and more and more. And that is what we see. But they put that down to refraction. Now, my issue with conspiracy cats is that if he doesn't acknowledge that that's consistent with a flat plane, if you can't acknowledge that that is consistency with a flat plane, then we have a problem. He can only argue and he can only accept that refraction explains this. Now, even if refraction does explain this, he has to concede that it's equally valid going the other way as well. And he won't do it. It's not that I don't know if it's that he can't do it, but he won't admit that it can be equally interpreted the other way. But that other way requires zero explanation. And he won't accept that it can be interpreted both ways. He insists that it's refraction and only refraction. And I'm like, then you can't argue from both. How can you be honest? It's not intellectually honest if you don't accept and acknowledge that it works both ways.
Well, unless I get to hear the full extent of the argument. But if he's saying refraction, well, what refraction?
Exactly. But my issue is that he won't acknowledge that it works the other way. And basically, without any explanations whatsoever, it's consistent with a plane. And he won't do it. He won't acknowledge that that's the way it can be interpreted. And I'm like, well, you're fucking dishonest. You are literally dishonest. You can't have the argument if you're not going to see it from both sides. You have to appreciate that it works both ways. And if you can't do that, then you're either brainwashed or you are dishonest. You're not in the middle. You're not being...
When you say seeing it both ways, this is where the arguments end pretty quickly with me. And you're allowing the comparison of two models to slip into the argument. In other words, when he argues his side of the argument, you allow him to beg the question. You allow him to present how it works on his model. You know,
but that's why, and this is where it gets a bit political, and I'll just say it. Some people say that you might not be as easy to talk to, and that's because you cut the conversation dead. And I mean, I'm all right with you cutting it dead because I understand why you do it. But for the audience that don't want to agree with you, they see that as you being a prick.
Well, that's not my problem. So this is...
No, I agree.
This is not my problem. Ultimately speaking, like with Rumpus yesterday, I've got two choices. Let him beg the question, assert his outcome, and then carry on with his example, and just allow that to happen on this debate. And then I basically have to watch if somebody doesn't spot it, but I'm not going to even allow that to happen. It's like, that's one of the rules here. We don't beg the question. So if your example includes a presupposition that you're on a spinning ball and you've been directly asked to prove you're on a spinning ball, then I'm going to cut it down pretty sharpish. Now, if it's someone like Dawn doing it, it's a case that they literally don't understand that they're begging the question. So they they miss the part where they have inserted a presupposition, because that's where the brainwashing comes in. It's assumed by a globehead that, well, it's okay to beg the question. It's okay to start with the premise that we're on a sphere when we look at this stuff. What's wrong with that? And that's the bit that I want to drum into people. Like you said, to go and watch the sun and moon debate. I did. And, you know, that was the conclusion I came to. It's like, well, not only has the begging the question slipped into this argument, so they're discussing one side or the other, flat or sphere, well, that immediately pisses me off. Well, the other thing that they then let the conversation go towards is the begging the question. It doesn't even get addressed, but the begging the question on steroids that is 7.6R, terrestrial refraction. You're like, you're all discussing refraction and the whys and the wherefores of refraction. Now, refraction's real. You know, it is. It's a real thing. 7.6 of the begging the question fallacy radius, that's not real. That's a begging the question fallacy on steroids, but that's never highlighted. That never actually gets dealt with. So both sides think they're having a rational conversation about the same thing, refraction, and that's not what's supplied in this Johnny Globehead's actual representation of his worldview, his model, his begging the question fallacy. He presents 7.6R. That's never even addressed. So it seems like they're all very reasonable. Well, no. One person in that argument, Conspiracy Cats, is begging the question and then begging the question again. And it's not even addressed. And you're like, okay, well, if I'm going to be criticised for going, no, you don't get to do that, well, why not? Well, because that's the whole point of the debate, to prove what you're asserting, and you're just asserting it into the explanation as a presupposition. Well, I don't allow that. You actually have to prove it, not just assert that it's so, and therefore make your example tie in with that because you assert it at the beginning of the example. No way. But in this instance, in that particular debate with Conspiracy Cats, that isn't even addressed, not even at the end. It's not like they get to the end of their discussion about refraction and it's like, well, that was a lovely discussion about real things that do happen. Why do you apply 7.6R? That doesn't even come up. So it's like, well, I just deal with it immediately. Let's just deal with this begging the question fallacy while it's being stated.
Listen, just before you go live, because you're going live in 3 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
I agree completely. Begging the question is what allows him to get away with it in a channel that they don't realise they're begging the question. So basically, it's the reason why he won't come in here, because he knows that he can't beg the question. That's because you're the hard one, and I'm happy to beg the question, knowing that I know that you know that we're begging the question, and I know you don't like it. But I also realise that if we do beg the question, we can still kill them. Now he can only go in a hangout where that's allowed, right? And I know you hate it. And I understand it, but that's the reason why he won't come in. So basically, it's like, do you want to like pander up to these dickheads and allow them to beg the question, or kill it? But either way, he can't come back in this hangout because he knows that he's not allowed to beg the question.
Hey,
and he blames him for being a dick. And
the bottom line is, Anthony, that is the magic trick. So to say, well, allow them to use their magic trick and then just destroy them within the magic trick and show how the magic trick works after you've already slipped the card into your sleeve. It's like, no. Just say, he's slipping the card into his sleeve. You just don't get to see it from the angle you're looking at. Oh, no. Let us do that part. Don't point that bit out to the audience. No. That's never going to happen here. So if that means they can't come in, that basically means, Anthony, let's get it correct. And I appreciated Dawn basically affirming this yesterday in the after show. Check it out if you're watching this on the pre-show after the live shows have ended. But on yesterday's after show, Dawn was in there and he was like, yeah, people don't want to come in because you've tightened your arguments right up. And it's really difficult to argue with you. You're like, yeah, you're damn right. That's because we're right. Saying, oh, well, we don't want to come in because we're not allowed to beg the question and give our examples in full. It's like, yeah, that's because that's where your deception lies. Assuming you're on a sphere at the beginning of every single example, having to state that the microwave background radiation is all around us. Not spotting that is the problem. That's why people get deceived, because then once you're into that, once you're into begging the question and assuming that the microwave background radiation's all around you, you're then into having to explain how it works in the spherical model and how it doesn't work in the spherical model. So the whole time you're on a sphere, the entire argument you've lost. It doesn't matter which way you argue it, because once you've concluded that the model doesn't work in that example, you're still in that model. You haven't actually, like with yesterday and conspiracy cats, nobody actually ever points out, well, obviously when you talk about refraction, you're assuming the Earth is a sphere and that light bends around that sphere at 7/6 the radius. Nobody ever says that. And it's like, that's the trick, to assume R. That's the magic trick.
You need to go live.
Got a minute.
He's got a minute.
Yeah, man. Oh, God.
I think that post-show, I heard it last night when I was working. It was good. We're done.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on social media. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Arwin, Sleeping Warrior, Ranty Flat Earth, Jose and Travis. Good to have you all.
Yo, yo.
Yo, yo.
Hello, what?
Good afternoon.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, morning. Any
Good
signs
morning.
of curvature? Anybody?
No.
Nope.
Miles Davis thinks he's found curvature.
He hasn't. He's been debunked weeks ago.
I know, but he's doubling down.
No, he's ignoring perspective, and he's ignoring that his model that he's modelled it out on is at odds with the model that the angular size resolution calculator. So he's got a contradiction. He won't address it, and he buries his head in the sand, and then redoubles down his position. But the fact is that he has a contradiction in what he claims is what it should look like compared to what mathematically it should look like, and he's ignoring it. And until he addresses it, he's still going to be the liar because he's not addressing the debunk that proves that his claim is fallacious.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say, I've just walked in the door, so I'm just putting a little something together, and this later on in the show is going to be epic. It's going to be an epic debunking of Miles Davis,
Excellent.
and it will probably take me about half an hour to put this together.
No worries.
Why waste your time? The guy's already been debunked.
No, not at all. If Ranty wants to debunk Miles Davis, by all means, go
what
ahead.
what I'm going to do is he's going to debunk the idea that looking at it perpendicular and mapping it out perpendicular is not how we should actually do things. We should do things looking at it through a perspective, i.e. angular size ratio. You cannot possibly do it as an orthographic view. So when he does this orthographic stuff, I'm going to debunk that entirely today.
Yeah, the way he does it basically is all of his examples are given in feet and inches or meters, whatever he's using, it doesn't make any difference. But he's keeping the actual sizes of things and asserting that this mountain should be X height at X distance, and then those heights of the mountain and its visibility are feet and inches or meters. And it's meaningless because what you're getting is an angular view of that mountain. So yes, the actual sizes. In other words, the orthographic way of representing them is to give you the actual sizes. So, you know, Anthony was giving the example, a 10-foot wall is still a 10-foot wall, but it's not a 10-foot wall if you get further away from it. Well, it is still a 10-foot wall when you get further away from it, and that is the orthographic representation. So when you see these globe heads, if you see these globe head examples and you see here is X mountain and it is 400 meters high, then you immediately know that he's talking about it in an orthographic representation, because he's not saying like they do with the stars, it's this radian or this arc size, they're not doing that. They're saying it's this many meters. And it doesn't matter if you get 100 miles away from it or 10 miles or right next to it, it's always going to be that metric or imperial measurement of feet and inches or meters, because that's how they do the magic trick. They remove the angular relationship by giving you it in feet and inches, and then you don't have to account for the fact that it gets smaller into the distance, while simultaneously, according to them, dropping in the distance. Well, that dropping in the distance is perspective. It is the angular size reduction at distance. But for them, it doesn't matter if you're a mile or 5 miles or 30 miles away from something, that mountain is still going to be 200, 300 meters tall, right? No, wrong. Its angular size will change radically depending on the distance you are from it, but the feet and inches size will never change. That's how they hijack perspective. So I'm in no doubt, having never watched Miles, when Ranty does his presentation, the first thing we'll see is a representation of the mountains and what he says they should be and shouldn't be in terms of their heights, and he'll have feet and inches next to it, because that's how they do it.
Guys, remember this. If you first put an orthographic view, right? Then presuppose it's a globe. Then crop a little bit on the sides where it gives it away. And then model it in a sphere, you might deduce it's a sphere. Boom.
Yeah, if you can remove the effects of perspective, which is to say that the angular size decreases at distance, and then maintain the sizes, you can call that relationship curvature, put it into a calculator. It's only as you're looking out at things, never side on. You don't ever actually get the photograph of the side-on profile. You get the CAD drawing. Or they ignore it completely because we've pointed this out and just keep referring to things in meters. You know, it's like, no, it's angular size, right? It's at a distance, yeah? Well, that's based on its angular size, not on its feet and inches size. That never changes, though, does it? Feet and inches always remains the same. It doesn't matter what distance you get away from it. Well, that's how you remove perspective from the equation. Pretty sharpish. Well done, dickheads. You're just cheating, and this is the magic trick. So, you know, keep referring to things in feet and inches rather than arc seconds or whatever else you want to use, radians. Doesn't matter. They're not using that system. They ignore it completely. That's how the magic trick works. So any signs of axial rotation? Now I've dealt with curvature or obstruction at the horizon, formerly known as curvature, actually perspective. Any signs of axial rotation?
No.
No microwave background radiation doesn't prove this, no?
No.
No?
Anybody thinking that the stars prove axial rotation? You've got to show that there's an axis to rotate. Stars alone don't do it. Sorry.
What even if they did rotate around an axis?
That axis would give you the sphere that they presuppose when they give you that example, Arwin. That's the whole point. Like everything, they have to beg the question and tell you that you're on a sphere. Then they tell you about the relationship with those lights to that sphere, thus proving the sphere, right? No. Formal logical fallacy, affirming the consequent. So no, axial rotation, big fat zero?
Nope.
Zero.
Any evidence that the assertion that we have a vacuum of space is in any way possible? Any demonstrations of gas pressure without a container?
There is actually a claim for this, yeah.
Excellent.
Have you seen Sly the Lie Sparkane? He's done a hangout aimed at Ranty, right? And basically what he does is he gets a plastic drinks bottle and he sticks over the top of it a balloon, and he fills it with atmospheric pressure at the bottom of a mountain. He then climbs the mountain in his car, and he shows that the balloon starts to rise as he goes up. And he's trying to argue that there's a density gradient, right? A pressure gradient. And his argument is that you can't have a pressure gradient if we're in a container. And I'm like, right, but let's deal with the fact that there's a pressure in the first place.
Oh,
then
sorry.
we'll demonstrate.
Hold on, let me just hear his claim again. You can't have a gas pressure gradient inside a container.
Correct.
Oh, well, that's just nonsense.
Why not?
Well, hold on. That's just nonsense. The necessary antecedent for gas pressure, full stop, any gas pressure is a container. So if he's to assert that you can have a gas pressure gradient without a container, that's no problem. I don't mind strapping on the word gradient to my assertional request. So no problem. Sly Sparkane on camera. Please demonstrate a gas pressure gradient without a container.
Correct. That's what I'm asking him to do. Let me be really clear, Sly. We can demonstrate easily a gradient within a pressured environment. We do it all the time. But before we do that, I want you, and I'm going to re-echo Nathan's words, to demonstrate a gas pressure gradient without a container. And we all know you can't do it. You're a moron. But you make it move. You try and shift the argument to go towards the gradient. And we're saying, nah. Before we get to the gradient, let's establish how you have the pressure in the first place. You can't just say, well, that's because it is. No, you got to how is it going to be? And basically, it has to be gravity, doesn't it?
Rumpus as well. Hold on. Let me just read Rumpus's comment because it's absolutely pertinent. You moron. A container is not an antecedent for gas pressure. No problem. The Rumpus. Let's do it again. No problem. As he's asserting that it's not an antecedent. The Rumpus. Please demonstrate gas pressure without a container.
How about an exploding something? That's gas pressure.
These people are morons. So, should we dice past that? We'll see if we get any gas pressure without a container demonstrations or gas pressure gradient without a container demonstrations also. We live in hope. In the meantime, are there any actual demonstrations out there of gas pressure without a container?
Exploding gunpowder?
Sorry, does it also suffer the effects of entropy and dissipate into its medium or not?
But that's another question. Yes, it does.
Right. Well, we're specifically talking about entropy, are we?
Well, if you're going to say gas pressure without a container, then I would add the detail a self-sustaining gas pressure. Because, yeah, you could have a gas pressure in some kind of condition. It's not going to last very long next to the vacuum or the lesser pressure, but...
Right on.
About the gas pressure
yeah, that's our point,
that we all breathe forever.
That's it. Very succinctly. Hold on, sorry, Jose. Very succinctly put, Arwin. Indeed.
I think it's actually worth reminding people because it doesn't seem to be going in. People seem to be listening, but they're not hearing. They're listening to us say the words, you cannot have a gas pressure without some kind of membrane, right? There has to be some separation between the pressure and the differential, whatever that differential is. Otherwise, it'll disperse into it. And people don't seem to be hearing what we're saying. They're listening, but they're not hearing. You can't have a gas pressure without the container, right? You can't have a pressure next to a vacuum without some kind of membrane. Can't have it.
It's easier to explain maybe with the. It's easier to explain with the value. So you've got PSI, pounds per square inch. So what's the square inch bit? Well, it's the bit that the pressure presses on. So you measure the amount of press per square inch. Well, let's have a little logical thought here. At the vacuum, what's it pressing on? The gas pressure, that is. The bit we all definitely know we have. We don't know anything about this vacuum of space. None of us have been there. It's just the assertion by religiotards. So, what's the gas pressure that we definitely know we have got pressing on to give you a PSI value? Well, I'll tell you what it's pressing on in the heliocentric bullshit world of sphere Earth in a vacuum. It's pressing on a significantly lower pressure system. That would be a vacuum. Well, that's not a possibility. That defies the second law of thermodynamics, because entropy would dictate that while it tries to press on that vacuum, rather than having something to press on, it would actually disperse into the vacuum instantaneously. So you can't have gas pressure without a container to press on. That's where you get your pressure from. It is the necessary antecedent for pressure, something to press on.
So in a nutshell, it's like...
Talking so fast, Nathan.
I'm sorry, I went very quickly there, Arwin.
It's embarrassing for you, but you ballers. You're just listening, but you're not hearing what's being said. You can't comprehend it because you're just ignorant. Rumpus can't comprehend it because he's stupid. He can't explain it because he's stupid. He explains it with gravity, but knows that that can't be proven because gravity is the bending of space-time. So how's the bending of space-time going to explain this atmospheric issue that you've got? Because you're stupid, Rumpus. Stupid, stupid, stupid.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's the balls.
Balls?
I do like Rumpus really is stupid because he should know that.
Listen up. Not
the
any
supposed
evidence of Rumpus
gravity
stupidity, right?
in
There
their
is plenty.
format can't do it. It can't counter entropy.
Stop Rumpus in our
There's
way.
loads of examples on this very channel of Rumpus stupidity. Just type in the word Rumpus into the search and you will find plenty of examples of utter stupidity from that particular man. However, what I'm looking for is the distance to the sun. Is there any evidence of that?
There's the balls.
You had said that last time. Balls?
Yeah, as in, it's the balls, as in, there is no distance to the sun.
Oh, like bollocks?
Yeah, bollocks.
Okay, yeah, fine, yeah.
And it's
Their
bollocks.
claim
for the American
distances
people.
are bollocks.
It's not bullocks. It's bollocks.
No,
Bollocks.
The second letter's an O.
Yeah.
The
So-
Rumpus can measure the distance to the sun with some math in a whiteboard.
Okie dokie.
So that's not no.
Yeah, there'll be an hour in that maths though, won't there?
Yes, indeed.
Any evidence of that R value? The Earth radius that's used to presuppose every single example of a spherical Earth? The R value, gentlemen. Any evidence of that?
No.
No.
No way. I'm
For the
shocked.
crow say R.
But you
Fair
have to
enough.
presuppose R in order to model it. If you want to model Earth,
The
you have to
birds, they
presuppose
must
R.
know because they've seen it from up there. They've seen it.
What are
They
you
believe
babbling
in
about,
R.
Arwin? You've had a few too many sugary drinks this morning, I can tell.
It's just coffee.
That's what it is. Too much caffeine. Say again, Jose.
So if you want to model Earth, you have to presuppose R or not.
Right.
Yeah, right. That's it. That's the statement. Beautiful. I know.
Is there any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of that presupposed spherical Earth?
It's the balls.
That would be bollocks, would it?
It's ridiculous.
I see.
It's weird because when you point it out to a lot of American guys, and forgive me with the Americans that are on, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's true. They start pronouncing bollocks as in bullocks, and then you say it's bollocks, and then they end up saying bollocks. And it's like, no, it's bollocks. There's an O there, bollocks.
I've never heard anybody mispronounce it. So you.
Oh, it's rife, man.
Yeah, right. Just shit all over his example.
It's so true.
Right,
You
let's
got
put
a
Travis on the
Mandela
spot.
effect
Right,
going
Travis,
on
let's
there,
hear it.
Anthony.
Come on then, Travis. Let's see you say bollocks.
Bollocks.
Oh yeah, that was all right. That was all
That
right.
wasn't bad.
Yeah,
That
a
wasn't bad.
bullock is an old school word for bull.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
But so yeah, I don't know.
And then
Just for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, we are actually talking about male genitalia, testicles.
Anyway.
So,
Yeah, I'm
last
ready
but not
to
least,
show you some stuff if you want.
last but not least, any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
Afraid not.
No.
Cool. Ranty, you're up.
Hang on then, one
There's
moment.
no up, Nathan.
Pardon?
There is no up. It's a relative term to us.
Yeah, relative to me. Ranty is up.
Ranty's up. Right, bear with me one sec till I just get everything up. Right, okay. Right. Share screens. Okay, so hide that. And okie dokie then. Right, so I'm going to prove now that you can't use an orthographic representation of something to represent reality, and you have to obviously only ever do this due to its angular size. And fortunately, Miles Davis has provided the perfect information for this.
Shout out
Well, this is his image that is conveniently again placed some markers on for us, different mountain ranges in the distance. He says that the camera height is at 210 meters, and he has this Hope 2 monument at 210 meters measured out too. So if we were going to do this as an orthographic representation, what we will do is have it here.
Is this a new video, or is it in the original video?
Oh, he's done I think he's done like 27 videos in the last day or something. So, well, I might be exaggerating, but he's definitely done a fair few. I think this was like 24 hours ago. Anyway, right. So this is what he's saying. He's saying that his camera is set to 210 meters. That post that he's looking at is at 210 meters. And due to that particular fact, he's then going to draw a direct line of sight to the mountains. So on the next image, we have the mountain in the distance. Now, this is how you represent it orthographically, obviously.
What, as a turd?
As a big fat turd. Big fat turd. Right? And no matter how far away you put it, if you push it further away on a flat earth, it will never drop below the height of 210 meters. So if this is a 900 meter hill in the distance, doesn't matter how far away you push it orthographically, it will never get beneath this line, right? This is his claim, that if something's higher than 210 meters, and he's looking perpendicular across a flat plane, it will never, ever, ever fall beneath the line. That's his claim, right? And everybody seems to be agreeing with this, right? However, let's apply his curvature in. So now he's looking across at the post, 210 meters, 210, and this is his line of sight. And then we've put the curve in, and then we have his mountain is going down the curve, right? So now we have it going down the curve, and let's have a look at the distances involved and do some calculations. So Ben Lomond is 974 meters in height, and it's 124.6 kilometers away. So when I plug those details into Google Earth, 124.6 and 210 meters in height, the hidden is 416 meters, right? The height of Ben Lomond is 974 meters. So we're actually seeing over 500 meters of that mountain by virtue of the Earth curve calculator. So we're actually seeing 500 meters of that according to their model. Yet he says this is 210 meters, his camera's at 210 meters. Well, how come if we're seeing this beneath the red line, yet we're seeing 500 meters of it? That doesn't compute in his model. And orthographically, you can't draw that, because when you apply it, it doesn't work.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, go back to his image a moment. His misrepresentation, as expected, is to put everything into their full values, so 926 meters, 974 meters, 210 meters. And his mistake comes at the detriment of his actual curve calculator, because according to what his claim is, nothing beyond 210 meters should be below this line. What's it? Oh, it's actually on screen. Camera height of 210 meters.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's Trapanian law? What's he talking about?
That's Trapane law is the mountain that he's on.
Oh,
he's
I see.
on a mountain
Sorry.
that's
Okay.
210 meters tall.
On a flat Earth. Sorry, let me just read it. On a flat Earth, nothing below the red line can be more than 410 meters above sea level.
210.
Sorry, 210 above sea level. I'm just being distracted by what you're drawing while I'm reading it. Okay, so yeah, in essence, then what he's saying is, if the 974 meter mountain has dropped by 400 odd meters because of its distance in whole numbers, obviously perspective excluding whole numbers, then even by his own example, that meter should be above the 200. That mountain should be above that line.
Yes. Exactly.
Right, so he's just undone his own bloody argument with this absolutely ludicrous assertion, which is undone by the very fact that he is using whole numbers.
Yeah.
So it should
And
be
when you,
massively above that line then.
yeah. So if we plug
idiot.
it in orthographically now, and we now know that we're seeing 500 meters. So let me put the 500 meters on an orthographic view. So this mountain is now 500 meters tall. By his logic, with this being 210 and this being 210, when we draw a line through it, this mountain should be higher than the line. But yet when we look at the actual evidence, the evidence says that it's below the line. And this works for all of these mountains. All of these mountains should be substantially higher than the line. So not only has he disproved orthographic representations of real world observations, but he's also, you know, he's also made a complete ass of himself over 27 videos.
Yeah,
because yes,
numbers,
as things get further away, they get smaller, and you have to apply the angular size. You cannot apply this kind of detail just by numbers. You have to apply them in the angular size of each individual mountain. It doesn't work like this.
It's a stupid idiot, because if you'd have paid attention to what we've been doing, we've been pointing this out since the Isle of Man for about 6 months. So by using these whole numbers, Miles Davis, you complete idiot, you've maintained their actual sizes even though they're getting smaller. Oh, they're not getting smaller, you say? It's still a 500-foot mountain? No, it's getting smaller. Its angular size is decreasing. But you don't account for that, do you? Because you use these whole numbers, which only work in your side elevation that you'll draw in crayon.
Now, I will debate anybody on this particular subject right now that I'm talking about. On this particular image, I will debate anybody. And if Rumpus wants to come in, invite him in and tell me, let's go to Bien Narain, and there's 926 meters at 134.9. Let's put that distance in, which conveniently I've already done. Hidden is 542 meters, right? So when we go back to the imagery, 542 meters, we take that off, 542, that leaves us around about, what, 380 meters? Well, 380 meters is still higher than the level line 210 that we have. 210 is his eye line, 210 is the post. Then essentially 110 meters should be above it. That mountain should be above the line by 110 using his calculations for the curvature of the Earth.
It also gets worse, Ranty, and this was only highlighted to me by Adam. Big shout out to Iron Realm Media, broadcasting last night. Good show, good show. Hey, Travis. Anyway, so he pointed out to me that when you do the measurement to each mountain, you're, in the calculator, essentially changing the angle that you view at each time. And in this photograph, you've obviously got a fixed angle. He's got, according to him, a completely horizontal position to this first Hope Torn monument. So, according to him, he's at 90 degrees, right? Well, the calculator doesn't do that. The calculator will always skew it and tell you that the angle of the camera is pointing further down when you look at something further out in the distance. Now, when Adam did his spreadsheet, when he very first debunked this, he actually skewed it in their favour and put all of the calculations based on their mathematics, where you angle the camera further down to look at something out in the distance. It's not the case. You know, he could go back and do the mathematics correctly, and I'm sure he's got a calculation of his own that he could have applied, but just to keep it so that no one's going to object when they plug the distances in based on his charts that he's got on his spreadsheet, and says, hang on a second, this doesn't match what I put into the calculator. It's like, well, no, that's because Miles has fixed his angle when he asserted that he was horizontal to this monument. So he's not pointing his camera further down like the calculator would say when you look at that mountain, because you're not just looking at that mountain. You're looking at all this other stuff in the near foreground, fixing his angle, unlike the calculations that they use. Hey,
let me just place one last thing on here. So when we put the orthographic view, what you say, the Earth curve calculator, etc., says that on this particular mountain, 450 meters is hidden, right? So that's the part that's hidden. And above it, we have 500 meters plus that should be visible, right? This is the Earth curve calculator, which if you was drawing it an orthographic view, this is the representation that you would get. You would get the mountain itself being higher than the dotted eye line. So the dotted eye line would take you in a very straight line. You'd have 500 meters above that. You'd have 450 that you obviously couldn't see, right? So this is how they would draw it orthographically. Whereas when you look at it in the real world, that 500 plus meter that should be way, way, way higher on Ben Lomond is actually beneath the Hope Town Monument, which proves that you have to use angular size. You can't orthographic views.
Last but not least, I'm going to point out that what Miles asserts is the calculator says that... Oh, I hate the new Skype app. I'll get Adam back on in a second. Just give me a second. Right, let's see if I can sort that out without a massive amount of noise from Adam calling me in. And my last assertion will be that in order to make any of these assertions, you first must beg the question and assert that you're on a spinning sphere. In other words, the calculator says we should or shouldn't see any of this stuff, and it's complete and utter nonsense. They're saying the model says we should see this. No, that is where they beg the question immediately. So that's why that title, the begging the question, perspective hijacking, proof of nothing curve calculator, is what's used. Can you hear me, by the way, Adam? Hello, Adam. Earth to Adam. No.
Oh, true. Sorry. Yeah, that's a good point. Sorry.
You see, in Ben Lomond, by the Earth curve calculator, 500 plus meters of it should be visible, right? Which would place it higher than the 210 meter straight line I line to the top of the thing. This 500 meter plus mountain that we can actually see of it would be in the distance. In Miles's opinion, that would place it above the red line. Substantially.
No, well, hold on. The viewer height is 210 meters. That's the observer height is 210 meters. Right.
Our monument is 210. And we can actually see 500 plus meters of this mounting in the distance. So how come that mountain...
Well, how do you know that?
Because of the Earth curve. Ben Lomond, 974 meters high. It's 124.6 kilometers away. So when I plug those details into the Earth curve calculator, which I actually have on this particular screen here, it says that the hidden value would be 416 meters.
Yeah, well, that's without an atmosphere, Ranty. We're dealing with that.
Oh, hang on.
Can you not interrupt him, please? He was still talking.
Rumpus.
Right, this is... Hold on, Ranty. Hold on, Ranty. You just interrupted him. Don't do that again.
Okay, don't interrupt me then.
Okay.
I'll do what that...
Well,
let's get that... Sorry, Ranty. Let's get it absolutely clear. I do exactly as I like. You do as I...
Yes, but normal people...
You're now interrupting me. That's your second warning.
Because interrupt
me again.
Right.
Is it time to go, Rumpus?
Control of a hangout.
You're not even going to listen to my conditions.
Go on.
Are you interrupting me again? That's your last warning. I will make my statement as... Right, bye-bye, you complete asshole. You can't keep your mouth shut. You want to interrupt Ranty. I stopped you from doing it and told you not to, then laid down the conditions. They being...
I won't interrupt Ranty.
Oh, and now you're interrupting me again. My conditions being, this is my show and I will do exactly as I choose. You will do exactly as I damn well tell you, or you'll get out. One of my conditions is you will not interrupt Ranty when he hasn't even finished. You claim not to interrupt people, but you're doing it right now.
Go ahead, Ranty.
Don't tell him what to do. That's my job, you stupid little moron. I've just explained this to you. I host this show. When I tell you to shut up, you damn well better do so. Go ahead, Ranty.
Right, okay. So I've plugged the details in, Rumpus. I've put the 24.6 kilometers with a view height of 210 meters. So at that distance, that mountain partially should be hidden by the tune of 416 meters, right? Now, the fact that it is actually, where are we? 974 meters tall. If we take, what's the hidden on that? Sorry, this one. 416 off of 974. So we're looking at probably 550 meters of that should be visible. Would you agree?
No, because you're pretending the atmosphere is a vacuum. It's not. We've got air in it.
So hang on. So you're telling me that this isn't an accurate representation? So all this ball clapping that you guys have been doing over at Miles Davis's for the past 2 weeks, you're saying that as this, it doesn't look anything like you would expect it to do. It's a false representation and it cannot be claimed for a flat Earth killing proof.
The proof's global Earth, yeah.
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. Where's the fact? This should be 550 feet, 550 meters high. And if Miles is at 210 meters and that post is at 210 meters, and we draw a direct straight line through that, you would expect to see this hill, this 550 meters of this hill, way, way up higher, wouldn't you? On your logic. Why not? Why not?
Okay, well, I must admit, I haven't prepared anything on this.
Well, let's just reassert it, as Rumpus doesn't seem to understand. When you exclude perspective, like Ranty's got on screen now, this mountain should be above the line as asserted by Miles Davis. Unfortunately, he's taking things into account in actual sizes, and therefore it takes a giant dump, the same as on Ranty's screen here, on the argument that this line drawn should represent something that is obviously getting smaller into the distance.
Yeah, well, obviously things get smaller to distance. We know that, Nathan.
No. His measurements, Rumpus, you total tard, aren't accounting for that, because according to him, it's a feet and inches or meters measurement, which isn't an angular size. Is it now, Rumpus?
Right, because you create the angular size from knowing the absolute sizes.
No,
that's the way perspective works.
No, sorry, don't tell me what you do.
You're interrupting me. Rumpus. Interrupting. I've got about 5 seconds in, and you interrupted me.
Yeah, you'd finished. That's not what he's done. You're telling us what we can do going forward. That is not what your calculator does, and that is not what Miles Davis has done.
And you've interrupted me. Right. The way that the angular size works is that you create the angular size, you determine the angular size from the absolute information. So you work out how far something is away,
Sorry, he hasn't done that.
how big it is, and then you're interrupting me again.
He hasn't
and then
done
from that, you're interrupting me again.
And there's a
and
reason,
then you're interrupting me again.
Right, can you listen to why I've interrupted you, or are you going to Rumpus entirely?
You're interrupting me again.
Yes, I am interrupting you, and I am going to interrupt you or eject you unless you listen to what I have to say. I will be heard on my own show. I am interrupting you.
I had 5 seconds and you interrupted me.
Yes, and I will. It's my show. I will dictate what happens here, Rumpus. You will shut your mouth while I interrupt you. That's absolutely what will happen here. You won't run the show, continually telling people to give you 5 more seconds. I'm stopping you from talking and telling you that he has not done what you are describing. That's why I interrupted. You can do this, but that would be future tense, wouldn't it? He has not done this. That's why the meters are being displayed, not the angular size. So let's not worry about what we could do. He hasn't done that. That's why I stopped you, you stupid moron.
You don't understand how angular size works. Angular size is something you
Another
calculate.
straw man. Do you see angular size reported on screen now?
No, of course not.
Well, then why are we worrying about what isn't being reported?
Well, come on, Rumpus. You've only got to keep up with what's on screen, mate. Just stay with the conversation.
With what's on screen.
But yes, and you've just conceded
for you, mate.
It doesn't include what you are now detailing. You stupid little man.
You don't understand what angular size is, do
Where
you?
does it say angular size on this screen right now?
You brought up the subject, not me.
I'm pointing out the lack of angular size on screen right now, and you're detailing something that is our objection to what has been done.
Right, the picture, when you do perspective calculation, which is...
Not when we do, that's future tense again. You're not listening, are you, Rumpus? You think you're going to slip this shit by me again. You think that I'm slow. I'm not. It is not being accounted for.
The camera performs effective transformation in effect.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It does. It converts what you see, converts the light that's coming into the lens, and it creates a 2D image, and effectively it does a perspective calculation.
Yeah,
so all the pixels you can see are effectively the angular.
That's fascinating. Where are those angular size information detailed? Rumpus, shut up. Where are they detailed on this screen?
Well, they don't need to be.
You've just detailed about the angular size and how it converts it in the camera, and now you're telling me that it's not relevant.
The angular size and angular positions is effectively the pixel position. So the camera
Rumpus, can I ask you a question,
Oh, no,
please?
you interrupted me, Ranty. Let me finish my bloody sentence. The picture you are seeing is effectively an angular representation of a 3D image. It's a perspective transformation. You create angular size from the information coming in.
So hold on, Ranty, hold on. And Rumpus, so what?
Well, I'm telling you, that's where the angular
it means nothing. So what?
You're interrupting me again.
Yeah, because it means nothing. So what?
Well, because you don't understand it. You don't understand that a
yeah, I do
photograph,
understand
image,
it, and
is
it doesn't
effectively
mean
an angular
anything
size
whatsoever
mapping.
when he's got
Perspective.
meters
You're
on.
interrupting me again. You
You're
don't like
rumpusing
me giving you the answer, do
I'm
you?
talking. You're
you interrupted my answer
rumpusing
to
me.
you.
Right, one more warning, and you go.
Would that stop interrupting me?
I am the one talking, so I will be heard. You won't continue talking because you object to my interruption. I will interrupt you. You will not interrupt me. He has not accounted for angular sizes. He's giving actual sizes that exclude angles because there they are on screen. Meters, kilometers, not angles.
That's correct, because the...
No, that's wrong. And our point. It should be accounting for the angular size and isn't. So it's not correct.
Yes. So can I please make a point?
Yeah, go ahead, Ranty.
Yeah, okay. So if we know that 500 meters of this mountain should be visible, this is a representation of 500 meters. This is in their Earth curve calculator, 500 meters should be visible of this mountain, right? What Miles is trying to say is that it should be higher than this line. This is his whole argument. And yet, why is it beneath the line? Essentially, that's saying that this mountain is 190 meters high. Well, no, why isn't it representing it more like this sort of size?
It's worse than that, Ranty. It's using the example that Miles has used. He's tried to line the 210 meter markup. That's the assumption he's making. Obviously, on a flat plane that could work, ignoring perspective. But what he's doing is trying to line the 210s up, and he's making the statement, I think, from his claims that 210 line is applicable all the way through his photograph.
His entire argument is that if something is higher than this direct line, so if you have a straight line and it runs right through, anything that's higher than 210 meters will always appear higher in the camera view.
Yes, that's correct.
And on a ball Earth, because there would still be 500 meters showing of this.
Sorry, hold on a second, Ranty.
I've just placed it here.
Hold on, just 1 second, Ranty. On a flat Earth, what are you talking about? This is an orthographic representation that excludes perspective. This is not what would happen on a flat Earth. This is how you misrepresent.
No, it's like, Nathan, how do you think you would represent an object and an observer in a diagram? Show me how you would draw that.
Sorry, Ranty, can you just go back to his picture, please? So I can answer Rumpus's question. Can you show me where Miles and the mountain are represented in this picture? Point at where Miles is, please.
So how would you draw a diagram, Nathan?
We're not drawing... Sorry. So here we go again. What a total asshole. We aren't drawing a diagram. You have just told me about the diagram you're going to draw, and the diagram you're going to draw is going to be including Miles Davis and his observation. Like this. There's observation point A at the left, and there's the observed at the right. That's what you're about to draw. And I'm asking you, go back to his picture, Ranty, while Rumpus is the hell out of me. Go back to his picture and show me in the picture where we see Miles Davis. Show him me.
Right. This is the perspective transformation that results from the starting off with the absolute positions, and then you can create, either the camera does it or you can do it in a CAD program to create the image, but you have to start off with the absolute positions of things.
Sorry, what image? Does that image include Miles Davis's head? Does that image include Miles Davis's head? Answer me, you complete retard.
I was being muted by somebody.
Yeah, good. You won't shut your stupid mouth. Answer my question. Will the diagram you draw include Miles Davis's head?
Yes.
Where is it in this picture that you're representing in CAD? Where's his head?
This is the transformed position.
No, this is the picture! You utter retard! We have ripped your magic trick to pieces, you
don't
buffoon.
Understand the most basic thing about perspective.
This includes perspective, and your drawing does not.
You create this perspective image from the absolute coordinate information.
Okay, well, I just have one question. Just one question before, I can let you guys just battle it out. But You see this image? This is an image of reality. And in reality, this mountain, this 500 meters of this mountain that we are seeing evidenced in this photography right now is beneath the 210 meter line, direct line of sight, right? So is that an so this is reality, and this is how you would model it on on the side-on view, which would say that there's 500 meters higher than this direct line.
Well, it's not 450 meters. That's ignoring refraction.
Wait a minute. The total height of the mountain is 950 meters.
Yes, but the hidden.
Yes. So 450 is hidden.
No, it's not. That's assuming there's no atmosphere, Ranty. We do not live in an atmosphere, which is a vacuum.
Sorry, what are you talking about? Assuming no atmosphere. These are his numbers. So has he assumed? Shut up, Rumpus. I'm talking. That means you don't. So is Miles Davis doing the maths wrong by ignoring the zero atmosphere you're now asserting?
Well, he uses refractive hidden. He doesn't use the geometric hidden.
What are you talking about, refracted hidden?
Okay,
sorry, I mean, hold on. I'm asking a question, Rumpus. That doesn't mean talk. So are you saying that he should be using...
refracted hidden is worse for you.
That's fine.
That's only 317 meters off the total height, which would mean we're actually seeing nearly 600 meters of that mountain. So 600 meters of that mountain. We're seeing 600 meters of that mountain.
We can't see the horizon in this picture.
What are you on about? We see the mountain. We don't need to see
about how much we can.
Yes, but when you say we're seeing 500 meters of it, that's
hold on,
500 meters.
Rumpus, shut up. Rumpus. Yeah, I am. We don't need to see the horizon for your sphere Earth effects to take effect. Apparently, it's on a ball and dropping around that ball. No horizon needed.
I was answering Ranty's question. You interrupted me.
I will do as I damn well please.
A question. I would
you won't. You won't. You will get muted by the rest of the guests because they appreciate that I run this show. It doesn't need a horizon. The ball is still a ball. It's still dropping around it. So absolutely unnecessary. Your objection is ridiculous.
What you're actually...
Yeah, you stutter. You utter retard. There's no Miles Davis head in this picture because that's how you need to represent it to remove perspective, to remove the angular relationships, so that you can put these feet and inches measurements or meter measurements of things that don't maintain their actual size. They have angular relationships, Rumpus. You retard. You stutter. You idiot. You have your religion taken apart daily here. I don't know how you put up with it.
I'm engaged in reality. Nathan, you can't do these calculations. You're incapable of doing basic
so will the diagram you draw be reality?
You know nothing about this subject.
Answer me. Will the diagram you draw be reality?
It will represent reality, yes.
Excellent. So it will have Miles Davis's head in it, correct?
Yeah.
Where is Miles Davis's head in the reality, the actual reality, the picture?
Well, it depends where you want. Let's say we've got two observers. Let's suppose.
Oh, right. So now we've got to pretend when I ask where Miles Davis' head in the reality. This is reality, you stupid idiot. This on screen, not the diagram you're going to draw and tell me is reality, when it's got the side of the observer's head in it, removing all aspects of perspective. You are stupid, Rumpus. I mean, you're thick. Because you think Miles Davis's head in the picture that he's taking is reality. That makes you a buffoon.
I haven't quite worked out which it is.
You're a buffoon.
Do you not believe you can draw a diagram that represents people's positions, observers and targets? Do you not believe you can...
Oh, so now we're representing people's position as opposed to reality of the picture. Oh, right.
Do you believe it's valid to be able to draw a diagram that includes the observer and the target in the same diagram?
Yeah, you can draw a picture that includes the observer and the target, but it would exclude perspective because it would maintain actual sizes.
Correct, so that's a...
No, not correct! You utter zealot! No! This picture is reality and it does not include Miles Davis's head and it does not maintain actual sizes of the mountains. Otherwise, the mountain would be above the line. That's Ranty's point. We finally got there. Not correct, you religious zealot.
Absolutely correct. But that's why
no, not correct. This view includes perspective and does not include the side of Miles Davis's head. This CAD drawing is not reality. It excludes perspective.
You do not need to include perspective when you're drawing an absolute diagram from which you would then do a perspective transformation to then...
We don't need that. We've got a picture. You need to do that to misrepresent what we say reality is. We don't
Nathan,
need
can
a
I just
picture.
interject there? I think Rumpus is still under this misguided assumption that the turning it into the side-on view in somehow translates the data in the picture, which is compacted because of perspective. He seems to think, is that what you're saying, Rumpus, that this side-on view is equivalent to translating the compacted data in the image to allow you to make comparisons between the two? I'm confused that you're still not able to grasp the point we're making here. I know you're probably obfuscating and just, you know.
No, I don't obfuscate. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry, what your name is?
Adam.
Adam. Sorry, Adam. Right. Adam, if I were to ask you to draw in a 3D model the positions of the observer and the target, how would you draw that?
Sorry, just before.
Why would I want?
Sorry, Adam. Adam.
Why would I want to translate it into a 3D model when the purpose I'm trying to
hold on, Adam. Sorry, I'm really sorry to interrupt you, Adam.
Go on.
Sorry, he's saying if you want to draw a CAD drawing of the observer and the target, I'd just like you to highlight those both things for us in this picture just before he does that, because that's what we've got. So show me where they are in this picture first, Rumpus.
This is an observer view and not the view in an absolute terms. And this is something
we want the absolute terms, isn't it? We don't need the absolute terms. We deal in perspective terms, not absolute terms. That's where your deception lies. Sorry to cut you off, Adam.
No, I'll just make the point. To me, and this is my confusion with the point you keep making, Rumpus, is that the purpose is we've got this photograph, and it's this photograph we want to be able to analyze. By doing what you're doing, you take the geographic data and apply it in a completely different set of analysis. You're not analyzing the photograph anymore.
Right. Just wanted to show the audience that basically what Rumpus is doing in the Hangout is talking non-stop so that nobody in the Hangout can hear your cogent points, Adam. So no one can stand alongside you. So he's literally just obfuscating every single word. So the audience can hear you. I make sure of that. That's only reasonable that you get to be heard. But Rumpus is making absolutely certain that nobody in the Hangout can hear, as I'm now demonstrating by unmuting the Hangout,
Come on, Adam,
letting the audience hear what he's doing.
Nathan's just waffling on, talking bollocks.
Yeah, so he's saying he's now projecting what he's doing onto me, which is basically his only trick, to Rumpus continually and then accuse people of not letting him speak. So you go ahead, while Anthony now tries to pepper the mute button so that he can hear what Adam says, just so that the audience know what's going on. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay, I'll just try and make the point again for you, Ron. But I know you're trying to ask me questions, but I'd appreciate if you just address the point that I'm making really there. I am confused as to why you think when you're trying to perform analysis of this photo, and that's what we're trying to do, that plotting the data in a side-on perspective of both the observer and the things being observed, and using that data is applicable. It isn't. It does create some mathematical similarities in terms of obstruction and the like, but it really is just a similarity where the numbers look the same. And I'm really confused as to why you genuinely think when you're trying to analyze a photograph that the maths that you're applying is relevant. And if you could explain that, I'd appreciate it, mate, because for me, that's either the point of your rumpusing or your confusion. And certainly where we would appear to disagree on how you would analyze a photo.
Perspective transformation, so we can then guess, we can make a prediction of what the image will look like from the geographic data that we've got.
He literally just didn't listen to a word you said, Adam. He just
no,
you've just
gone completely off on a separate tangent, and that's the point, Rumpus, mate. I don't know if you can hear me. Would you just address the point instead of going off on your own?
That you start off with the geographic data, and from that you can make.
So he's just literally just ignoring you completely.
Going. It's funny, isn't it? It's funny.
So maybe Adam, while Rumpus, because somebody's joined the Hangout to snipe people that would normally control the Hangout. So Rumpus can just continually talk without any of the guests that are muting him, so he can actually let you speak. So
the angular sizes of things.
It's just basically
and then
talking non-stop. That's, you know, I'll just, like, while we're in conversation, I'll just open the gate when I pause in a moment so you can see precisely what's going on.
You'll just, I mean, you can hear the bits there. He's just constantly coming in and talking a process of what he does. And
you don't understand, Adam. You don't understand.
I don't understand. That's his other real good line, isn't it? A complete statement that Rumpus just constantly, the amount of times. I wonder how much airtime has he taken up telling people they don't understand. It's sad, isn't it, really? Because he doesn't progress anything. I mean, if I was a neutral listening to this, it's a very, he's not helping his side, is he? In the way he behaves.
Well, it's because this is the last line of defence.
Yeah.
You know, what Ranty's got on screen now is their representation of the world. And when I say to Rumpus, show me Miles Davis's head, so show me this position. Mouse. I've lost it completely.
To me, mate, it's a waste of time talking about that, because you're not able to have any form of real discussion to discuss any points, because his total inability to even recognise your point and to just move away from it. It isn't a conversation. It's just a diatribe of him rambling. You trying to form a conversation and then him just going off on one again. I respect your patience.
Asking, you talk in the middle of
I get interrupted.
Speaking.
I'm only allowed to get.
Yeah, that's his other trick. He constantly projects out that people are interrupting him.
Yeah. You know, I just want 20 seconds. I just want 20 seconds.
I just need 5 more seconds while you're trying to disable his point or address his point, or stop him in his tracks while he asserts a fallacy. And while you try and dismantle that, he'll just say, I just need 5 more seconds, or you're interrupting me, and he'll say it 400 times. So, like I say, this is the last line of defence while we point out the magic trick. The way they do the magic trick is to constantly assert that they must draw a diagram of it, or keep it in an orthographic representation by using the whole numbers. You know, show the audience that the Hangout's basically getting now sniped to all shit, so that literally nobody in the Hangout has any control over it.
You don't have any means to understand. You don't have any means of drawing a diagram that represents an observer and the target in the same diagram. You deny that's possible.
And the other thing that's quite interesting that he seems to be ignoring, which is what Ranty's put up, is he chats about this orthographic, this side-on view, but you can see the impact of what happens when you just put those peaks onto the curve in Ranty's picture, and that is. It's that orthographic. It really is that point that, again, I was saying what you've then got to do is apply perspective to that. But again, all he wants to do is do that orthographic view and leave it at that. But that really is the representation he's talking that he thinks then accounts for perspective is literally just placing the peaks for the next point of consideration, and which is the effect of perspective. And then he can filter in your atmospheric effects as well. But he really does need to drop his peaks first, because he's claiming they're on a ball before doing this analysis. But I say it is just that masquerade of trying to hijack perspective. And they're missing a step, basically, in the maths is the simple summation for me. And they want to miss it, and they want to point out how you can convert it. And there is a reason of converting it. It's not really necessary to use the imagery itself, but you do have to use the translational heights for analysis in the image. He is right, but again, for me, that's all they then do. They don't do the next steps, which is to realise that we are analysing a photograph, which provides you the data, but that data has been subject to perspective. And that's the next bit of maths you have to use to undo the way that the photograph has compacted the data.
Yeah, that's in essence the magic trick in its entirety, isn't it?
Yeah.
They say you need to create this picture of it, and they don't have to present that picture, they just need the whole numbers. So a 10-foot wall is always a 10-foot wall, and it will have the same relation to this line that I draw, regardless of distance if you're on a flat plane. It's like, oh, no. At 5 miles, that 10-foot wall is going to have a certain angular size. At 10 miles, it's going to have a different angular size. So That's what
I'd
you've
add to that,
accounted for.
Nathan. Actually, a 10-foot wall isn't a 10-foot wall. A 10-foot wall at 10 miles is 10 foot, but it's not. It's no longer 10-foot level with the eye observer. The wall's still 10 foot high, but it's also 5 foot lower where it starts. So it's only 5 foot.
Right.
Yeah.
Translationally.
Yeah, translation, exactly. But the translation is done through the angular relationship, which they ignore.
Well, this is the whole point. I've got some echo there.
It'll dissipate. It's just because you're just a new guest. Don't worry. That will all dissipate once the guests come back.
Right. Well, the whole point of this was just to say that this would be an orthographic view in their model, which would be 450 meters would have gone beyond the curve, which still means we're seeing 500 meters of it. So by virtue of it then being 210 meters to 210, we should see the mountain way, way, way above the line of sight. But obviously, in reality, we see the line of sight shows the mountain substantially beneath the 210. So this is assuming that we're taking miles on his. He is at 210, and this is at 210. He says he is, and all the Globers seem to be patting him on the back, saying that this is the case. So we've only got to go with what he says, which then just leads to the question, well, this omits perspective. It omits the angular size change over distance and essentially debunks them ever going back to this kind of representation of how we should see the real world, because this is wrong.
Absolutely correct. And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel, including Rumpus, for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, then smash that dislike button, then smash it again. But if you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!